to, I won't say real photography, but DSLR photography with Canon T4i. I think that was back in maybe 2014. Yeah, it was my first entry camera, and I had no clue back then what I was doing with the camera. I was just taking pictures, snapping everything, and the classic term that people say is like a machine gun with the trigger on the camera, right? You just snap pictures and hope that that one out of the 500 you take actually comes out with something that you like. And since then to now, over like these past 6, 7 years taking photos, I guess I've learned a lot of skills. Um, some through working with people and talking to people from the TTPS society, and a lot with looking at videos on YouTube and downloading classes from torrents and all those things, just to build the skill set, right? And eventually, we moved from rapid fire taking all sort of and 500,000 photos in a camera reel to really get into the point where I am now able to conceptualize a scene, sort of um, uh, frame it and take the photo and get good results. So the essence of today's talk or tonight's talk really is I guess, four areas. I'll start with a gallery of work that I've done over these last years. And that gallery is a bunch of different types of photography, amateur photography. So I'll probably talk about things in travel, photos and people and portraits, a couple of photos in astrophotography, although my work isn't as great as Kazim's work in astrophotography. A couple of underwater photographs that I took, a couple animal photos, some really creative composites, and a couple of shots with live action, right? And then after I present my gallery, I'll probably go into a couple slides on, we talk about if only I knew. And it's really lessons learned and in photography and things that I like to share with people about getting into photography and what people should really look for. And then this other part here was a special request by Sarita, all about travel photography. And people are quite interested actually. I guess my people who I guess follow me on social media, they're quite interested to understand. Hey Yogi, how do you plan for your trips? How do you take photos on your trips? What do you do? Like where you go to find these places, and what do you carry in your bag when you take these photos? What's your gear like? And in a sense, that's what's nice to hear about. Yeah. My style of presenting is half informal, so I will be talking. But to make the most of this, I would really like if people were to just put their hands up and just unmute and talk and ask a question, interject at any point in time. And even if you want to turn your video on, don't just be me, Chad, and Sri with our video on. So I'll probably see people's expressions on their faces or see when people fall asleep and I know it's time to take off t-shirts or something. Sorry, no. So yeah, so anyway, if I make this, I'll get into it now. Tonight's talk, I'll start with gallery. And I guess the first set of photos I'll talk about in my gallery will be travel photographs, right? And my screen is up. I'm sharing. You should be seeing it.
Yep, is everyone seeing the screen? You could just let us know in the chat.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Cool. All right. Go on, Yogi.
Great. So I'll probably have maybe between 4 to 6 photos in each category. I'll talk on each photo. I'll talk a bit about sort of the settings and the scene. So this first one is in Cuba, and this was on the way to the town of Havana. This is one like when I now got this phone call here. I don't know, 1020, but this was photographed with a camera phone. I didn't have a DSLR at the time, So we just turned around and we were walking, and the sky was beautifully lit and beautifully colored. Very little enhancement was done to this photo. And probably this was one out of 10 photos taken on this afternoon in Cuba with the sunset going on. Um, at that time, luckily, I knew like, basic things like horizontal horizon not in the center of the screen, probably put your sun in a corner, maybe make it in 1/3 or something. Um, and yeah, this photo wasn't really edited that much either. This is one shot from Cuba. Put your hand up if you have a question. I'll move on to the other photo. And that's kind of like how the presentation will roll. Me just talk a bit about the photo, a bit about the background and what happened here. Next photo, this next photo was taken in Germany. Settings are f4.0, ISO 1 and 250 at 76 millimeter. You can see it says composed, the trees in the right corner. And I quite like this photo because it was, like you take a walk on Queen's Park Savannah, you take a walk anywhere, you look around and you see this tree just standing out in the open. And an alive photo, and I love photos to be quite alive because you see the birds and the people, and the ducks walking around, and I think when taking photographs, the more life, and I guess there's a lot of diminishing to how much life. But, when you see life in photos, in addition to just the flora, it brings the photographs alive. Yeah. Um, so this other photo now. This is taken in Kuala Lumpur, March 2018, and this is a bit different. This is a bit different from the other two photos you see. A photo like this is you need a bit more. I won't say skill, but it's not just a point frame and click. But photographs like these, you need to understand. You need to understand how to probably use a camera a bit more. Understand what your aperture is doing. Aperture is doing to the photo in terms of you see this like the lights and the flares on the lights and the lines on the road with the cars. So while it's well framed, taking a photo like this, you wanna probably try to get a longer exposure. Step down your f-stop a bit and probably go as wide as possible. Yeah.
So Yogi, this, for example, this image, this was, I mean, you planned to make the shot, so you kind of pictured, you knew you wanted to get a cityscape with some movement, anything, and you found the space, or were you at a rooftop bar, for example, and you saw it and you said, hey, let me take some pictures?
That's a cool thing, right? So I knew I wanted a shot of this. I had no idea where I was going to get a shot of this. I saw like part of the when you travel and you look at images, you Google search images. I like this image. I want to recreate something like this.
Right.
And but I didn't know where I was going to go. Luckily, I was able to book a hotel, and the hotel had a top floor, which you could probably request to get a high room or something as high as possible without paying extra. And this is out of the hotel room's window, you know. So you probably can see it a bit, but not too much. But if you look at and that's where if you're not familiar with the shot, like this area of black around here, there's a bit of a speckle, and it looks like it's probably speckle on top of the rooftop.
Right.
Really and truly, that's not speckle in rooftop, that's speckle on the window through the window in the hotel.
Right.
And even though on the bottom here you see some flaring happening with and you may think that okay, that's probably that is also speckles on the window
On
inside
the
the
window itself.
yeah. Um so yeah, and when you really want a shot, you photographers will know this. You try to go at all different lengths just to make that shot, just to capture that moment. Yeah. Um, any other questions? Sorry, move on to the
Yeah,
next one.
Yogi, I was going to say, yeah, I took a shot similar to this somewhere else. Carlos here.
Because
Hey, Carlos.
Yeah. And what I was going to tell you is, yeah, you appreciate window cleaners after they take these shots, right?
yeah, you actually do. And you know, even to get this right, I had to mount my camera tripod on top of the table inside of the room because the wall along the window was more, a lot dirtier than that. So you can see that it probably fades off into cleanness on top, but I still need to point the camera down. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different technicalities, and people will look at photographs, right, and think like, wow, people will just snap a photo with this camera and that's it. But it's more than just snapping a photo. It's everything is everything behind the lens. And what I mean by that is getting into the position, getting the composition, making sure the conditions are right, you know, making sure that you have no disturbances. And probably the next photograph, I'll actually move to that one, will be a good example of this. So you might think like, okay, this is a nice photo. He probably just stand somewhere and take it. He did, but wait, this photo was taken on the edge of a bridge with gushing water below it, hanging over the side, and you kind of tie on your camera to the railing, and you have a filter on your camera, and you're doing a long exposure on your camera, and rain falling behind you, so you have on a rain jacket, um, and you're hoping your front of your lens don't get wet, but you still end up getting the photo, you know. Um, so it's one of those things where when people who take photos, they really appreciate the story behind the image, you know.
Did
Um,
you clean this image up at all? It was raining, so I'm not seeing any rain per se in it.
Yeah, it was
What,
rain. You probably won't see the rain because
because of the exposure?
it's a long exposure.
Yeah.
So yeah, you won't really see the rain. And then I didn't have any filters in it. So but no, I didn't do any cleaning on this. I probably did a few things with this. So what I probably did was try to enhance or probably add to the light that was already there on the rocks to bring the rocks a bit more alive. You notice that the water is a bit smoothed, but the smoothing of the water is a result of a longer exposure time. So it's a 15-second exposure. You probably notice that there is some glow here. And so the glow is a result of the haze, but it was also the exposure around the glow was it was enhanced a bit more to make it feel more alive. Um, and maybe a slight color grading of the photo to give it a bit more mood, you know?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Um,
Anybody took a behind the scenes picture of you hanging off the bridge?
I have a video of it on my phone.
Oh, should share that too.
Yeah, yeah, I have a video of it on my phone, yeah. Um, yeah, I'll probably move on to the next one. So this is not a composite. This is a single shot long exposure. Similarly with this one, this is also a single shot long exposure with a um, not even with a filter one. This was just straight on the camera. This was taken in Portugal, 2018. A 9-second exposure f9. And I'll talk a bit about f-stops because it's important. And you know, photographers when they take photos, or people when they take photos, they some people they just point and shoot and they don't know what the f number really does to the image, right? And in landscape, people, or you probably should try to get, you see this on the camera setting, a larger f-stop, which directly means that the field of focus, or your depth of focus, extends more than just a narrow field of focus. I'll explain what that means in a later photo. But maybe in this one, appreciate that everything is sharp and everything is in focus. And uh, yeah, there's a bit of story behind this photo also. And maybe to Sarita's, you know, how do I plan? When I was planning to go to Portugal, I was sort of looking up at nice images and, you know, like what people take in Portugal. And there was this image called the Heart of Algarve. Um, and to get to that, there was no one saying where to get to that except for this one app. It was an app called Photo Pills. Back then, they used to have geotags of locations. So, you know, I went on the app, I got the geotag location GPS, I pinned it into Google Maps. I drove to a general area and then probably hiked to the edge of the coast. And then when you get to the edge of the coast, you kind of, but you're looking for the heart, but you're just seeing rocks and you're looking around and everything just looking like rocks. And then you kind of figure out, oh, so this is kind of area where you need to go. And then you're looking, and then okay, so your eyes start to see the shape when you're walking around, and you're seeing the shape starting to form because everything moving with you. And then you kind of so you have your camera out, and in this instance, you put the camera on live view because you're watching and you're looking to see how you're framing it. But then the being that the tripod had to be really high up, pointing down to get the shape of the heart to look like that in the photo, and it was taken, you know.
They also have to have another eye on the edge of the cliff too.
Yeah, I had some other photos. I have one photo from this area on another side of the cliff. As a composite photo later on. I'll probably share it and talk a bit about it as well. Yeah. Okay, I'll move on if nobody any questions on this one. So this is a bus stop in Portugal. So this is a randomly taken photograph, I must admit. But when you take photos of lights, also for people wonder whether that phenomenon.
Yogi, you sound a little muffled. I don't know if you
Hello?
yeah, you sound a little muffled.
Are you still, is it
Yeah, okay, so it's better. So I think you just went a little too far from the mic.
Yeah. So people wonder, do you edit your photos to get that sun flare in? And the answer is, well, no, I don't. Not for the sun flares anyway. And the reason for that is, it has to do with the shape of the aperture. So light comes through the camera and it goes through tiny pinholes, right? And if you have like a point source of light going through a tiny pinhole, the shape of the pinhole replicate onto whatever sensor or anything you have, right? So you could imagine like if I had a heart shape cardboard cutout and I put it in front of a camera lens and I shine it into some Christmas lights and I took the focus off, I'll probably see a lot of heart shapes, right? So sun flares happen when the aperture is really small and the light goes through the blades of the aperture and creates this wonderful effect. And that tends to start to happen when you have f numbers of f12 straight down to f24, although you probably shouldn't shoot at f24. But you know, the smaller the aperture, the larger the flares that you get. And you probably would appreciate too that this photo, so everything is shot on raw large, and the entire photo was probably bigger, like 3 times the size of the screen here. But to get the right composition, you kind of have to rotate and crop in. And I'll probably talk about that later on and things that I wish I knew. And when you're taking photos, sometimes, especially if you're walking around and you're not sure what you're going to take, you're not sure what you're going to capture, I would recommend to people probably shoot on the largest raw setting you have and crop in afterwards. So this is probably a 1/3 crop of the entire real image, you know. I also quite like this image because it's also a bit alive because you have people and motion in it, which feels like you're kind of connected to the scene. You're probably wondering where the people going, what's happening, where does the bus going, what time of day is it? Is it sunrise or is it sunset? You know?
I like the use of color. I mean, so there's the bus, the yellow sun, obviously. The lines on the road looking yellow. I mean, they could be white, but just looking yellow from the sun. But it's everything kind of tied together into the palette. Cool.
I'll move on to this other one, and I shared this image because well, yes, a nice image. You could also see the really sharp sun flare. But I guess just a lesson or thoughts on framing, you know, and people will think that, okay, I want to shoot this building, and you look on the internet and everybody, 100 people have the same photo of that same building exactly the same way. And this is where you kind of have to start to think outside the box and start to be a bit creative in how you frame. This is also a photo from the hotel room, early morning sunrise. You can see in the background, the background is a bit hazy, and that's because of the morning dew. That wasn't one of those photos where you artificially create the autumn effect to make things hazy. It was actually like that. And the light coming through the blinds, and you see the doors, and it, it brings you into the photograph that you want to be there. You want to see the sunrise. You want to know what's going to happen for the rest of the day after this photo is taken. Um, yeah, move on to the next. Any questions on this one? Okay. And this is the last photo that I have in sort of the travel genre. Um, and this is a photo of a volcano from Nicaragua in November 2019. In this shot, you could imagine there were probably like 50 other people at the edge of the tourist area trying to take this photo, and this one little guy with a camera and tripod standing up there. People wondering what happening. And as soon as the photo showed up on my camera screen, everybody around with a camera phone came and looked at the screen being like, wow, look at that shot, how come their phone are looking like that? And really is shots like these, you probably won't like you probably won't be best to capture the phone camera for a couple of reasons. One, the metering on the camera phone is difficult to really fine tune and adjust, right? Especially when you have point sources or like that being dominant in the frame of the screen. So you'll see people with photographs, and the bottom part of this here would be the whole area will be totally blown out, right? So it's difficult. And then like I'm not sure if you are seeing it, you guys, but you see a lot of details in the rocks and a lot of details in the haze and these little everything. And you can only pull those details out after you come back into Photoshop with your raw file, and probably exactly how Kazim would edit his astrophotography and adjust the curves and bring up details and you know um, adjust the balance so that light from this particular spectrum features more. There's a lot of editing to get details, and I'll share a secret with this one. One video that I looked at in editing this video was a video on editing nebula photographs. So editing photos of nebulas and nebula cloud, because this is exactly the same thing. Either it's cloud, is light. How do I create my masks? How do I do my adjustments to get the right level of detail to show without damaging everything else in the photograph? Yeah.
Tristan, I wouldn't have thought to make that connection, And I mean, and when you say it like that, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, just a lot closer.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe we could get Kasim to give us a talk on doing those adjustments one day.
So I'll pause here. I'll probably invite some comments or questions if anyone wants me to go back to any photo or explain anything. Or just chime in on any thoughts before I go on to the next series of images. Anything on your mind, Sarita?
I know, but I saw somebody ask a question about how you afford to travel to all these places. So is it that it's work and pleasure, or mostly work and then you take the time out to go shoot, or purely pleasure?
Well, sometimes it's work, other times it's pleasure. And there's a lot about, I want to get into later on and planning. I'll explain everything that I do in detail and how to. And there's also your lifestyle too, right? So for example, calculations on people who drink, people who smoke, people who lime a lot, people who spend money on all these different things. If you add that up within a year, you could probably take about 2 or 3 trips, be happy by foregoing a lot of other things that you want to do. There's a lot about budgeting and balance and finding budget flights and staying at budget accommodations.
when you travel, do you get a guide from the area, or you just kind of go on the internet, you know, the
Um,
recommendations and stuff and wing it?
it's a mix really. It's a mix. For example, the photograph that you saw, um, with with me being off the bridge, that was taken in Norway, and that trip was a planned trip with other photographers from other places. So
Mhm.
that one was guided. So they told us that they took us around, and we went collectively looking at different areas on where to take photos. Um, and those photos that you saw like in Portugal and Nicaragua, those are things that I would have planned on my own. Just really Google searching and finding out what's out there, and putting pen to paper, making it happen. And the thing is, and so I see a comment here, well, it's not a comment, but the thing is you have to know, sometimes I find that you have to know what you're looking for to get it.
Mhm.
But outside of knowing what you're looking for, when you when you take random photos that you don't expect, those those feel really rewarding because you know that there's an spur of the moment that you took this photo, and is that memory and that time that you kind of capturing that it didn't intentionally create. Okay, let me move on to I guess the people on portrait. I have five slides on people and portraits.
I'll just before you jump into it, so I'll just shamelessly plug that this people on portraits is one of the categories in our ongoing competition. So I think everyone here should know that we've launched the National Award, Photographic Awards and Exhibition, and we are open for submissions. So
I thought you were shamelessly going to plug the fact that this one won Best in Show
this one
in
also won Western
2017.
Shoe.
Uh,
Yeah, so Yogi is also a past winner of the Trinidad Photographic Society's um, annual competition. So yeah, sorry, back to you, Yogi.
yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Um, it was really a rewarding experience, yeah, to be honest, being part of the competition, entering, being shortlisted, um and in being part of the society, you get to meet a lot of talented, really, really talented people, especially when you go on exhibits and you share and you go to these sort of sessions and talking to these people talking to people like Kazim and everybody else. You learn so much. People like Street, people like Chad, you learn so much that when you go out into the field and start me taking my amateur photographs, and I remember things people saying, for example, um, this guy told me that you need to put the eye in the one third line because that's where people look. And it's like you look at videos on YouTube and people talking about it, and only when you hear somebody like really tell you and they sit with you and you get the image corrected, um, and you frame it and you find that wait now, um, some of these things that these people say, some of these things that you're reading actually makes the photo a whole lot more compelling photo to look at. And that's what happened with this photo, right? Um, I would have taken this photo, and this is not the original crop for this photo. Um, but after understanding how to frame, where to get the eye, how to have the focus done, the photo came to life. But that's only half of the story. Photos like this, the other half of the story, or maybe three-quarters of the story, is engaging with the character, to get the emotion out of the individual, to capture it and share it with other people. Um, so I don't know if many people will know, but this is Tony, I think that's his name. He's a coconut vendor on Queens Park Savannah. And he normally doesn't smell like this, but he probably isn't very approachable either. But we were walking, and I guess this day I was walking with my friend Carlos. He's on the corner now, and we were just taking photos. This is when I just got this new lens, and uh, uh, we were taking street photos, everything in the street, people too. I have random photos of people, and we approached Tony. I was like, "Hey Tony, how you going?" We talked to him, and he started to laugh and he started to share his experience in life and everything, and how people is always take photos of him and nobody's giving money and all kind of thing. And and then he was smiling, so I was like, "Hey, Tony, I could take your picture." You know, you have a quite good smile that I could capture. Um, and he did, and eventually the photo came out and it won the competition. Um, and that's sort of when you're taking pictures, what you want to get, right? You want to get some emotion invoked from your audience when they look at your images. I'll probably move on to the other photo here. Um, again with people, but this is a different stance on people, not really focusing on um, the emotion of the person. But again, when in doing research in different types of compositions, um, repeating patterns and leading lines and those sorts of things, um, you probably you get tripped somewhere and you'll probably just see this Buddha statue. You probably see and just look at it and take a regular picture, right? But to really make it compelling, you probably want to combine all of the different elements into what makes a photo a great photo. So you have, the background, you have the Buddha lines going down to the back, you have the girl, again, being in the one third of the focus, right? Um, there's intention in the photo because she's looking towards the statue. Um, so things like that when you travel and you're taking photos. I really try to do something that is a bit different or capture something that's a bit different. Although if it's a very popular image and everybody captures like it's a good image to capture, I will still capture that image if it's a popular image to capture as well. Yes, Kathy asked, did I stage this one? I did stage this one. The story behind why this person was dressed like this. It was this particular day. There was this Thailand soap opera that came out, right? And almost everyone who was in this particular temple were dressed in the costume of the main character in that Thai soap opera, and they were all walking around, and some of them had umbrellas and all kind of fancy stuff. And there was this group of people, and they were just taking photos. So I jumped in front of them also, and I started to take photos too. And this person was like, "Can you take my photograph?" So as a photographer, I'm like, "Okay, yeah, taking photographs." You'll have to ask me twice to take a photograph. So yeah, so I kind of told her what to do. Although she couldn't speak English, I was like, stand here, do this, kind of look this way, bend your head this way. Um, and this, I'm going to the next photo as well, which is also a staged image, single frame. This was in Nicaragua. This is up top of volcano. And I had an image like this in my mind. The instant that I saw these close mountain edges together. And I was just thinking, oh boy, Nagio. So we were in a group. It was a tour group up to the up to the top of the volcano. It was really really hazy, wet, damp, rainy, and I kind of asked this person, "Hey, can you climb and just look up in the sky, look like you're climbing?" And they did, and I happened to get a good photo. Um, so I'll probably talk a little bit about something in this photo that I probably did differently in other photos. A bit of editing. So I use something called Nick Collection, and Nick Collection has I think it was from Google. I think they discontinued it now.
I was bought over by
yeah.
DxO.
Yeah.
But it's still available.
Yeah, so what I use that particular this photo was really to bring the green alive.
Yogi, you're fading out again a little bit.
Hello? Yeah?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Good. I'm not sure why that keep happening. But anyway, yeah, so I use Nick Collection and I use that to bring the greens alive.
What was it, Viveza?
No, just some more color contrast, detail enhancement,
Okay.
pro contrast, foliage enhancement. But not a lot of those things, because if you do a lot of those things, the image starts to look really unrealistic and unnatural. But when you look at images on the internet, and for me, I look to see what people like to see in images. So when I recreate it, is an image that people would enjoy looking at. And people like to see things that are alive, most people anyway. Um, and bringing the greenery alive in this photo was one of the objectives. In addition to kind of having the woman there. Um, yeah, and you notice all the haze. So the haze isn't added. The haze is natural as well. And probably down on the right hand corners, you probably notice some vignetting, and that's sort of style photographers use also vignetting. As a good style, I would think it's a good style to focus to help the eye naturally focus more on the subject of the photo and nothing else. So maybe this one might have too strong of a vignette in the bottom. I don't know. But really, the dark edges and the bright center brings people's eyes into the photo, in addition to having it well composed.
So I have to ask, how high up was this? Because my hand's sweating just looking at this picture.
Yeah,
Was it treacherous?
yeah. So that's the beauty, right? Once you don't photograph the ground, you
It's
don't
like a
have
foot up.
a perspective or any sort of relative point to look at. So it leaves the mind to really wonder about those things. And
Mm-hmm.
if you look carefully, very carefully at the bottom of the image, you could see a bit of a line there. So
Brilliant.
maybe a foot up at most. That's how high up the image is.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. I have two more in the section. I'll move on to the next one. Um, okay, there we go. This is um this is a shot from Pagua. Uh, and so this image is severely cropped in, and the original shot, well, the original edit isn't this aspect ratio. I just blew it up a bit so we'll kind of get to see the details in the eyes and the shape. And um, so this image is a series of Pagua photographs that I took. And I did this with my camera in one particular setting. Um, what I'll do, I'll probably leave people to guess the setting that my camera was in until I get to the Pago photos, and then hear what they say and then say what it really was. But this is a standard portrait, right? But it feels alive because the eye is there and there's some detail around the face. And the beauty in the background always adds beauty to photos. Was it the last image? The last image in people and portraits. Um, photograph of my fiance out in Rio Seco. Um, so here's the challenge, right? The challenge is, how do I go to a location and not take a photo of a waterfall that the rest of Trinidad has taken and have it look captivating? Um, so this is not a DSLR photo, it's not a phone photo, it's a GoPro photo. Google setting was on wide angle. And everybody was just playing around in the water, and I was just there with this camera, as I always taking pictures, trying to compose. Eventually, I ended up on a rock, and I saw these leaves on the top hanging around, and I took a photo, and I was like, whoa, if I could frame with these leaves and have somebody do something in the water, it would be good. So I took a bunch of photos with the framing, and it didn't turn out. And then all of a sudden, Mimi started walking across on the log. I didn't ask her to do it. She just started to walk. And I took that photo. And believe it or not, on social media, this is um, one of the one of my most liked photos. And it seemed to have become very popular. People actually painted this and send me images of the paintings of this photo from USA. Yeah.
Something about it is very it's almost like a tourism ad. You know, it has that feel of it.
Yeah. It was really, yeah. The water was really nice that day too, I must admit. And it was very difficult to not have a photo of video cycle with other people in it, because they like to get to this waterfall, you know.
I think what makes it striking for me the most is like a practice in restraint now. Like it's very easy to go to a location like this and just be in awe of just the actual waterfall itself now. But having the ability to just step back and look at it from this angle and almost revealing it as compared to just shooting the whole thing, to me I think gives the shot that kind of beauty, especially with the foreground elements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm still on, I appreciate that comment there.
I was trying to say silent for a while because this little boy just acting up in the background, but I'm here.
No, that's cool, man. And anybody else online, yeah, you all could unmute and talk to her, though. Don't be afraid. Thanks, Steven.
Hey Yogi, Shamia. What I love about this photo is that to me it puts Trinidad on par with any of those Instagram photos you see. Sometimes you think, wow, how beautiful those other places are, but a photo like this shows me that Trinidad is just as beautiful, if not better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Trinidad is beautiful. And I'll probably make mention of one. There's this guy, his brand was I Love Trinidad and Tobago, Ziad. And
Yeah.
so
Ziad here? I think Ziad was supposed to be here.
um,
I don't think he's here, but
um,
yeah, Ziad is also a past winner of he actually Ziad won landscape photographer. He topped the landscape category in our competition last year,
yeah,
and I know he's won in the past as well.
a lot of inspiration I get comes from looking at people like Ziad and other people in call their photos, and just thinking about how they think, and asking them, actually talking to Ziad himself. Hey Ziad, what was your thoughts on, like, how did you do this photo? Like, what you do, how was it? What was the time of the day? Um, and that's the thing, yeah, in Trinidad, it's very easy to connect and network with people and learn from each other, because it's such a small, tight-knit community. And that's something people shouldn't really take for granted. If you want to leave Trinidad and you try to make connections like what we have in our country, you're not gonna get that, You're not, and we should probably be really grateful for that. Anyway, I digress. I'll move on now. I'll probably, yeah, astrophotography. I only have two photos in this section. One might be astrophotography, one might just be not really astrophotography. I'll start with this one. A photo of the dish up in Chaguaramas tracking station back in 2017. This was when they used to have this thing called Star Party. And lots of people would tell us go to work and they would spend the entire night camping out looking at the stars in the sky, and all different celestial objects. This is a sort of long exposure photo, 36 seconds, shot on ISO 640, single frame. I was trying to take pictures of the Orion Nebula, and I don't know, it wasn't coming out too good. And I was kind of getting bored with just my regular camera lens looking up at the sky, so I turned it into the ground. I started to take photos, and lo and behold, unplanned, these people walking around with their flashlights, the red filter on their flashlight, and they walk straight past the frame. And it got captured, and it turned out to be very, very beautiful in my opinion. Yeah, so that's kind of this photo here. People on call like Darcel and Vinger and Sean, they were all there that night when we took this photo. Cousin was there that night too. Cousin was there that night too. Okay, anyway, next photo.
Yeah, just a quick word. The Star Party still happens, but tickets are really hard to get. But I mean, it was canceled this year because of COVID.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they still have it every year, so it's a really interesting event. to try to get tickets for if you're interested in astronomy and astrophotography. But I think they've moved it. They moved it from the top of the tracking station because I know we had some damage, and I think they have it down in the golf course now.
We have it down in golf course, yeah. I just want to pause. There's a question from Vendra actually. Vendra was asking, do you always get permission to photos, especially those previous portions? The answer is yes. I will never take a portrait photo, but will ask for permission. Unless the people's in, like, you can't make the people's faces out. And I mean, yeah, you're in public and you can take photos in public, but there's good etiquette, good photography etiquette to always ask for permission. Yeah. The black and white photo. Vendra, I'll probably go back to our black and white. Do you take this photo in black and white or take it in color? I'm not sure which photo. I'll probably go back to Vendra afterwards, right?
That's the one of Tony she meant.
Oh, yeah, Tony was taken in, yeah, Tony was taken in color, and then yeah, Tony was taken in color, and I just desaturated Tony. Desaturated Tony, yeah. Cool. Now nobody asked for royalties, Vendra. This next one, you all remember Comet in Your Eyes? So this was taken out in Paramin. To help me take this photo, I was using an app called Sky Safari. So you kind of type in your coordinates in Trinidad and search for Comet in Your Eyes, and it shows you where in the sky your eyes is. Point the camera in a general direction, and you hope to take something. Most times you don't get through. So to capture this photo, I started with a wide angle lens. I started with a 35mm, and I kind of realized that, well, hold on, this thing is really tiny and you can't really distinguish it. So I had a 35mm, and the camera and the mount pointed in that direction where the comet was, and I knew exactly where the frame the comet was. The comet was centered in the frame. Took out 35mm, put on the 70 to 200, focus on the focus at 70mm, got it in frame, took the photograph, and then zoomed in again, 200, and then took the photograph. And it was really difficult because you had to always maintain the comment in the center of the frame, because when you zoom in at 200, you can imagine that any small changes in motion amplifies as you go further in distance, especially with a longer lens. And I took it, and I kind of applied the same quote unquote nebula type editing to get the dust out of it. And taking these kind of photos, maybe I know Kazan can probably talk a bit about this, but when you take photos of stars, right, especially with a long lens, something happens, and something that, well, two things happen really. One, all of the motions on the ground amplifies so much when people move or when the wind blows, and it magnifies with the longer focal length that you have. That's one. And two, the longer you expose, yeah, the more you're going to capture that motion and stars being looking like little wobbles on the screen. But you're also going to capture the motion of the Earth rotating relative to the sky. So if I were to probably set this at 30 seconds or longer at a long focal length, I'm going to see some stars streaking, yeah? And the only way to get away from that is either you use a tracking mouse with a really sturdy tripod, like a really heavy tripod, or you take a lot of images with shorter exposure time when you image start them. So you can take one with the and you can then Photoshop and you make it look nice. Getting into now next part of it, some stuff from underwater. Oh no. So before I get into underwater, I'll probably pause again to invite some sort of conversation or comments on any of the previous images we saw there. I think we answered all the questions. People commenting in the chat box are saying here, I'm seeing really beautiful photos along this lovely light street. Yeah. Anybody want to unmute and make any comments before moving on to someone on the waterfall?
Yogi, obviously the Astro stuff, you planned that out from before, right? So, I mean, you have to know, I mean, I think we kind of knew about Neowise, but I mean, the other things, I mean, you have to pick the day and the time and the weather and all that, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of planning from that point of view.
Yeah, we spent probably 3-4 days trying to get photos of it.
And that you went 3 times to get photos?
Yeah. So the first attempt was this photo. And the other attempts was when the community was supposed to be closest to it. But we had that storm that diverted around Trinidad at the time. And so all we were getting was just like photos of the rain, actually. Yeah, I'm a picture of the rain one day. I'll share a picture of the rain in a minute, yeah. We were getting was photos of the rain. Yeah, I have it here. It wasn't part of the presentation, but yeah, it was. You have to plan it. You have to know what time to look for and those kind of things. You have to know where to look in the sky, and you have to know how to expose. Yeah, this is the.
And you said the 2 apps you use were, I mean, photo pills, which I think quite a few people are familiar with. And what was the other one?
Yeah, I have a whole list of apps actually at the end of the call.
Okay.
On the slides talking about the apps I use.
Okay, cool.
But one of the apps that is not on our list, which is an astronomy app actually, which will help people who take photos in astronomy to know where the Milky Way is going to be. That I use a lot for just looking up city nights is something called Sky Safari. Yeah. Anyway, this is one of the failed attempts at Neowise, a random cloud that day. Yeah.
It was a nice cloud picture.
Yeah. And you probably experience this too, Chad, and guys in the call. You probably have so many different photos in your portfolio or on your hard drive that you probably will never ever share, and it'll just remain there forever, I suppose. Okay, I'll get into some underwater stuff now. I have 3 photos here. Now the caveat is that I don't yet own really good underwater photography gear. So, these are just images that probably came off from a GoPro, or probably a screen grab from a GoPro, that I kind of clean up and cropped in because I thought it was interesting to look at, And what you're seeing on the screen is Molyneux Sculpture Park in Grenada. So you kind of try to combine like diving with photography. There's an image of the sculpture underwater in Grenada. I'll probably talk a little bit about underwater photography too, because it's either you have a GoPro, or you have what you call it, one of those Canon power shots in a dive case, or you sell your organs and you have really good camera gear.
You have an underwater case for your DSLR.
Yeah.
And insurance.
So yeah, so it's for people who want to get into good underwater photography, your underwater, your dive case for your DSLR is probably equal to or more than the cost of the DSLR. And that is not including arms and strobes and fiber optic cable and vacuum pumps and all of those things. So you could end up spending well over 10,000 US. Well over 10,000 US if you want to take really, really good underwater photos. Either that or you buy a GoPro and you take video and you take screenshots. Like this one here, like this one here, of a mobulus ray with some fishes under it. You try to, when you grab the photo out from the video, you try to frame it, you try to enhance it, and maybe sometimes you get something good, sometimes you don't. For example, like in this photo, like this nice photo here of this turtle.
Wow.
This was also from a video. from the GoPro. I have my GoPro running on 2.7K 30 frames per second. And it got this really, really nice turtle. Sometimes images like these need all the cleaning up. For example, in this image in the background, it was really dirty. And I probably didn't do a good job cleaning it because you've probably seen some kind of little dots in the background here. But you improvise with what you have and you make the best out of it, you know?
So you would shoot, I mean, you would set up to do video when you're doing the dives.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the thing
And
is,
while you're diving, you thinking of the photos or you're thinking of the video in terms of like your framing and what you're looking at?
when I now started and I was using GoPro and photo, like especially diving is really, really, really difficult to maintain what we call neutral buoyancy and taking photos. So I my goal when diving with my GoPro is really to get video of the underwater creatures and share that. So I have some few videos of these creatures. And sometimes along the way you see a nice frame and you stop it in your screen grab and you save it and maybe share it one day with people like everybody in this call.
Where do you put the GoPro when you dive? On your head?
Nah, nah, I have it in my hand because even when you're underwater, you probably want to get the subject matter as best as possible in your frame. So I have it on my head. I guess you'd probably be looking at where I'm looking at, but I prefer more control with
Okay.
it. Floaty stick. Yeah, I've enjoyed the turtle was waving. Somebody asked, do I use special filters for underwater GoPro footage to get clear water or did it fix it in post? Well, as you think, right? When I now started taking underwater photos, I used to use a red filter, Shamila. But as the skills develop and when I started taking video, I did a lot of learning and researching on just color lookup and Adobe Premiere in color correcting. So this photo, I'm not looking so, I guess it's kind of looking off color, but a lot of the videos that I shoot are color corrected in Adobe Premiere with effects layers. Okay. Yeah, that was the last one in underwater. Let me see. I have animals, creative composites, and then live action to come. So I guess we're ready for animals. I have 4 photos on animals to share. The first one, I'll start with famous hummingbirds. So this is in Tobago in 2013. This was on my T4i. And I was just taking photos. This was on, I can't remember what lens this was on. But it's a 250 millimeter. Anyway, so the story behind this photo is there was this guy who was staying at the hotel I was in, and I overheard a conversation that they saw a rare albino hummingbird at this location. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I have my camera. Maybe we should go try to take a photo. So we went across to Adventure Farm in Tobago. We kind of set up shop. We probably waited for about 3 hours looking at this one bird feeder, waiting for this bird to just come and sit. And the thing with this particular one, he will probably sit for like a few seconds and then disappear and come back again in like a half an hour, 45 minutes. And the image looks, I guess, well framed, but the original photo, all on the right hand side here, all this right here was bird feeder. So when you take your photos, it's very important to sort of crop. Yeah. Oh no, sorry. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Next photo. Are you guys seeing stuff?
Yep.
Yeah. Another line says I can't see the photos. Maybe the person should probably drop off and try to rejoin.
Yeah. Just let us know. Maybe give us an emoji or put in the chat if everyone could see the photos still.
I can.
Yeah, it was a shame. Yeah,
Okay. I think
Yes,
most people
people
saying
seen
so
it.
if somebody had some problems, maybe drop out and join back in.
thanks everybody.
Cool. Thanks.
This other one, this photo is a photo of a horse in Iceland. I want to share this photo with my friends. They thought it looked like a L'Oreal ad for a horse. Um, what's the story behind
You should try marketing this shampoo company.
it? Yeah, it looks so wow. I don't know. But yeah, the story about this photo is I guess going in Iceland, the trip was a drive around the country, looking at different things. And this was a self-planned trip. So, in one like I'll probably go online, research different types of photos to take, locations to go, plot it out on my map, um, and plan the drive based on the locations and book accommodations based on the locations they want to go. This horse was just a random horse. I was driving in the middle of nowhere. This is like you can see the mountains in the background, snow-capped mountains, and there was this long fence and these bunch of Icelandic horses just there. And this guy or girl, I couldn't really tell at the time, came up and kind of looking intently, around back in my car, took my camera out and just started to take a bunch of different photos of him or her, or maybe it's a her, I don't know. Let's not discriminate. um, okay, yeah. Next photo, second to last one. Is this the second to last one? Yeah, second to last one photo. This is photo in Galapagos at the end of last year. Shot at 200, ISO 200. Um, what's the note of this photo? Well, one, something is a rare blue-footed booby, so it's a kind of a booby type of bird, located only in Galapagos. But the shot was a difficult shot to capture in that we were on a dinghy floating around somewhere in some water looking for creatures on land. And I guess, being in a boat, you have surge and swell in the water. So to get a photo like this, you really have to be creative in how you think about your shutter speed, right? And it's very similar to when people take photographs of sports. You have to take it in a really, really high shutter speed. So, but even with the boat movements and you're trying to, I guess, be stable and frame it, um, just take it. So this was probably one of 30 different photos. Being in a dinghy, moving up and down in the water with really high shutter speed. Camera on burst mode, trying to kind of stop and take. Maybe he end up in the center somewhere. Maybe he'll be looking good somewhere. But I know that I want him. I know that I know that I want a photo with his head looking in one direction and his eyes straight towards me. I'll just take that photo. Next one is a photo on the same day. Another bird landing precariously in the water. And again, this is one of those photos that you're on a high shutter speed. You're taking boost shots because it is in motion. And you're aware, so the settings are boost mode. And what you need to do also when you're in boost, when you saw these things, some DSLRs have really good autofocus and some lenses really have really good servo motors that give you good autofocus. Luckily, this lens, the 70 to 200L, has really fast autofocus. So while you may be moving and the shutter may be moving, you have live tracking autofocus. No, not all the photos would have been sharp with shallow depth of field because you could appreciate that shooting at f2.8 in the water moving. I know that I want to get this guy's head in the center of that sliver of focus, and I have to point on my camera screen, the focal point, and have the camera keep focusing on that point in and out while moving, while shooting burst photos. Probably taking about 100 photos of a flock of these birds until probably getting just this one guy, up Right, I'll pause there again. Oh no, you guys went ahead too far. Okay, I'll pause there again for some other comments or questions. Chad, Sarita, anybody else on the line? Before moving on to a bunch on creative compositions. Somebody on there.
So I'll plug again. So y'all just saw some really interesting bird and animal pictures. So that is one of our categories in the competition again this year. So feel free to take some inspiration from Yogi.
Yeah.
And I'll jump in on the plug and say if you join back and you renew your membership, you get one free entry to the competition. So there you go. All right, carry on.
Yeah.
Yogi, that last shot with the bird touching down into the water, that was a big crop too, or?
No, that wasn't too big, it was right on the side, probably like a few, not too far off, because it was at 200 millimeters. It was zoomed up a bit, so that wasn't much cropping on this. Yeah.
Nice moment.
Yeah, even this one too. This one wasn't much cropping either. Yeah. Okay, I'll get into creative composition. So I'll talk a bit about what I call creative compositions. And for me, it is really transforming an image into something that you have in your mind to, what's the word, boy? Is it a venture? Or just combining everything that you think in your mind and bringing it out into a photo that makes the photo a bit better. And I'll move into this. I'll move into this one, this creative composition. So the composite. So before I explain anything, I want people to guess. You can type in the chat box or you could talk. Guess for me how many elements in this image may have been artificially added, and also guess for me which one element shouldn't be as it is in this image.
Okay, so I would guess the flare, like the rays were artificially inserted.
Okay,
The background with the birds.
That's two.
That yellow patch.
Right.
The girl.
Okay. Anybody else?
Zoom in. I need to zoom.
Oh, you cheated now.
I have to zoom. Yeah. My is not good.
That's the beauty, right? I find for me when Shem, wanna say something? Let me break it up a bit there. Courtney also want to say something? Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. People. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. So Sarita, you kind of spot on with most of those things. The sky is inserted. But there's a sky of the same area, but not of the same location as one. The birds are also inserted behind the arches. The woman is inserted also, and the flares are inserted. And so Cathy and Alyssa, they call them out. The shadow shouldn't be as it is. So this is a photo that had no starting composites on, right? And you notice that with the flares coming out here, even after the rock, you still have a flare line coming out here. That flare line probably shouldn't be there. Here should be shadowed as well, not a flare line. And as you get more and more experience in doing creative composites and making edits to photographs, when you now study, you're bound to make mistakes, right? And this is one of the things that after posting a photo and after people liking it, I was like, oh no, but light doesn't work like that. Am I violating the laws of physics, So yeah. And like things like this, like for example, the woman too, you have to be careful what you put in any photo, right? You have to know, does it add to the image? Is it the right scaling? Is it the right size? For example, if I inserted another image here for person and the color through the dress wasn't that, it probably wouldn't have looked as real as it looks like this now. Maybe the birds might have been overdone, but I still thought it was pretty good because of the sunset. And for me, this is my image and what I wanted to see in it. And it was created that way. Vendor is asking, what did you use to do the composite? Which software or softwares? So I'll talk about that venture later on in a little section on If I Only Knew. I'll talk about those things there too. What's the next one? Right. This is also a creative composite, but none of the elements are artificial. So it's a composite on 3 different elements. The first element is the guy swirling the cotton wool on fire around. The second element is the mountains on the background, and the third element is the sky. So all of these photos were taken on the same night, the same location, just at different points. With the camera in the exact same location, not being moved. So this would probably be called a stacked image, if you want to call it that, right? So I have the background stacked, I have the midground stacked, and I have the foreground stacked. Yeah. These kind of photos, these are sort of very, very technical type photos because, for example, the guy in the foreground, you have to really know how long to expose for, how to not underexpose, not overexpose, to get that right. Like mountains or whatever, and the sky, for the northern lights, that's also a bit tricky because taking the photo is one, but these things are very what's the word, misty, or I don't know, it's difficult to capture. Yeah. So yeah, you have to be taking a lot of photos and timing it and getting it right. And even after you have it captured in your camera, you still need to go into post-processing and bring it out a bit more, sort of similar to the the volcano photo or any sort of other astrophotography photo, where you edit the curves and you bring your highlights out. Yeah. For the editing of the Northern Lights, I got help with that online also. I looked at a lot of tutorials on how to expose for Northern Lights, how to edit Northern Lights. And that's the beauty with, I guess, YouTube. Everybody, yeah, you can find anything you want. Similarly with this other photo here,
Yogi,
yeah,
for the previous shot, so in between the different components of the shot, you're changing what your exposure, your focus, what your
yeah,
yeah.
So for the foreground, okay, so sorry, so the foreground is it's 2 different foregrounds. To get to the technicals, the foreground is 2 different foregrounds. One is the foreground alone, focused on the foreground alone. The other part of it is a combined foreground with the guy focused on this man swirling the cotton wool around, and then I did a light overlay with the foreground, a light overlay onto the focus foreground with the road. So that a sort of focus blend, focus stack, and different exposures as well. And then yeah, for photographs of things really far off, that's a different focal length totally and different exposure totally here. So yeah, so there's a lot of different intricacies and elements to bring together. Yeah. Happy I have that question, Charlie, because people wouldn't really know all those kind of things. Yeah. Next one is another creative composites. This was when I was playing around with sky replacements. So I took both photos again in Iceland. And at that time I wasn't sure how to, like I wanted the photo of this cathedral and I wanted the sky, but it was two different total locations, two totally different nights. But it's still the Icelandic Northern Lights combining, you know. Yeah, so this is another composite, creative, yeah. Okay, I have one more creative composite. So you remember a few slides back when I had the photo of the heart of Algarve from Portugal. So a bit further on the hike and along the coast was this beautiful rock formation here. And what wasn't there was the sun, the sunset, the stars in the sky, and the comet Neowise. So this comet Neowise is from Paramin. The sun is from Paramin. And the rest of the photo is from Portugal. So so everything from the water come down is from Portugal. And photos like these I quite enjoy. I quite enjoy putting together because it challenges yourself creatively because you know, you want to get the clouds to reflect and match on the water. You want the color grading to match with the sky. You know, you don't want the comment to look too fake, but you want it to look real. You want some stars appearing. You know, and I edit like this probably took me like, in terms of hours, probably like 4 or 6 hours, collectively over a few days, bringing together different elements to put together, you know. So yeah, this is one of my most favorite creative composites. We're coming to end soon though on the images. We're coming up now in the next section called live action. Caveat is live action. It's only live action in one topic, one category, which was Pago photos. Yeah. I saw that they did this entry slide differently to just shake people up visually, to break the monotony. So before I get into live action, any questions on any of the slides any of the photos that I shared on creative composites? All right, well, let's get into live action. Oh wait, any mountain biking photos? Oh no, no mountain biking photos, Jeremy. Raja asking, Yogi, you mentioned composites and stacked images. Can you share what's the difference and when might you do one? When might you do one or other? Okay, for me, and maybe the expert photographers could probably talk about this too, but for me, a composite is when I have an image and I take elements from different images and bring them together and compose an entirely new scene, new photograph. So it is a composition of many different types of photos from different scenes coming together. Versus when I see a stacked image, to me, a stacked image is an image of one scene with multiple different shots, with, for example, different exposure brackets, different focus bracket, different focal ranges. So there's one image, there's one frame, one frame image with the camera in one place, and you take a bunch of different photos, and you stack it together to create something that's blended well together. Yeah. Okay, let's get into live action a bit now. I have, let me see, 1, 2, 3. I have five slides on live action, and then I'll get into some really boring slides with text and explanations on stuff. So what you're going to see here is a bunch of different images taken during Pagua from 2019, right? And I'll talk a bit about the technicalities of taking images like these. My first ask is, the question that I had on shooting for Pagua? Anybody have an idea on what kind of settings you're going to use when you're going out into the field for Pagua? For images like this in particular?
When you say settings, you mean camera settings?
Yeah, camera settings, yeah. Like what you want to...
You have it under the picture, so it's kind of cheating.
Well,
I I'm assuming that if you want to capture action pretty quick, you may decide to do aperture priority maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, so what I did was cheat. So I put my camera into sport mode. I put my camera into sport mode and I took a lot of photos because with sport mode or was it well, one of those modes. Maybe it wasn't sport mode, maybe it was aperture priority to get the f-stop. So I set my f-stop, I set my ISO, and I set my focal length, and I had the camera take burst photos at a very high frame rate to get what you see in here. So you capture things in motion because you could imagine that if you have stuff in motion going very fast and your shutter speed is very low, you probably won't get anything worthwhile. You'll probably see things blurring out. Yeah. So for example, in this next photo here, these next two photos here, you're shooting very very high frame rates, and you have a camera. What's the word, boy? There's a focal setting on your camera, but it tracks faces as well. So you have that on, you're tracking your high shutter speed, and you're snapping and you're taking, and eventually you'll get something that you get very well formed, very well captured motion and expressions in these sort of images that for me, out of all of the photos that I've taken, I find that these photos that I took from Pagua were the most alive set of photos that I've ever taken. Most alive. You see motion, you see color, you see vibrancy, you see life, you see expression, you see people having fun, and many years I always wanted to take Pago pictures. I see everybody taking Pago pictures, and most Pago pictures you don't, people just like take a regular portrait, but I was like, I wanted to capture the moments and time of people actually enjoying the Pago, see it in these
I think you certainly did a good job of that.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, the image is clean, crisp. I mean, you're really getting the action. I mean, I think one of the questions, and I haven't seen it in chat, but I mean, you're using a 35mm, so you're pretty close to the action.
Yeah, you're right.
Obviously, you're worried about your gear and stuff. What how you protected your gear from all these stuff, from all the abuse and thing.
This is for me. This is where improvisation comes in, right? Because on one hand, I have a 16-35 f2.8. The other hand, I have a 24-105 f4. But I don't like f4 shooting people's faces because I want bokeh, I want blur background, and I don't get that much with f4 versus f2.8. Now, if I had a 24 to 70, 2.8, I probably would have used that and probably been a bit further back and not on the people. But I only had the 35 2.8, so which means that I need to be close up. And I need to have my camera wrapped in a plastic bag, and I need to borrow lens wipes from everybody who had a camera that day because it was just doused with a beer all the time, So it's one of those things where you sort of improvise like this. I love photos like this. Just pure motion and things happening, and everything just flowing. Yeah.
Yogi, there was a question. All these are natural light?
Yeah, everything is natural light. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted the f2.8 too, sorry. Because at 2.8, I get that additional stopper light up from up from 4.0, you know? Everything is natural light. Yeah. And you probably appreciate that this was wireless 2.8 is out in the sunlight. So every single photo, while it's exposed for the faces of the people, all of the sky is just totally blown out. But I don't care about that. I want the pictures of the people, you know, and that's what I want people to look at. Yeah.
And Kathy was asking if you got permission to use them and if you follow up after with them to give them images.
Yeah, so for these images for Pagua, I can, like some images ask people to recreate scenes and, you know, play around with the Pagua dust and take the images. And some people give me their contacts to send them the images, and I happily do that. I was making money doing that, but I'm not much of a photographer, so I'm not really making money doing that. Um, but yeah, not all of these have people's permissions, Cassie, because it was a public event anyway. Okay, so this is the turning point of the presentation tonight. We have half an hour again, and all of these other slides are just conversation points on things that I learned, things that I want to share, and just information. So I'll pause there again. Sarita, Chad, if you want to field any questions, make any plugs, before I move on, right?
Yeah, please jump in and ask questions. You know, I mean, really, Yogi would like this to be interactive. So, you know, I mean, as much questions as you have, don't feel, you know, I've always been of the school of there's no stupid questions except the ones you don't ask. So please feel to jump in and participate and comment and ask questions. Yeah, so it's not just a one-way Yogi talking and everybody listening.
Sounds yeah. So I'll move on. And yeah, anybody can stop on ask a question. So if I only knew, and if I only knew the sections about, you know, I wish I knew these things early on. I wish people told me these things. I wish that I didn't have to go on Google search and look at courses and find things out, and figure out on my own. But figuring out things on your own, is good too. So if I only knew that you probably should try to get it right in the camera on the first try, because believe you not, a shitty photo is a shitty photo, and nothing you do to that photo could make it better. If you like, you have to, I don't know, you have to try so hard to get back something from a photo that isn't properly composed, properly exposed, um, properly, like, especially like photos being in and out of focus. Get it right. Take your time. Think about the photo. Think about how you're going to compose it. Think about what you're going to do. Think about what you want to show at the end of the photo when you're taking the photo. When you take a photo out of your camera and you go to process it, it's something that you have to work with. Not something you regret saying, oh boy, I wish I had focused on this, or I wish I had bring this more in the frame, or you know, those kind of things. Get it right in the camera.
Yeah, the technical term for working on those bad photos is called polishing a turd.
Yeah. Yeah. Polishing it too, that's right. I mean, you could probably bake shit and then mold it, but still. um, anyway, next one. Always shoot in RAW. Now, when I now got my camera, my T4i, many years ago, I had no clue what RAW was. No clue. And I would take these photos, all on JPEG, oh, large JPEG. Yeah, boy, I saving space. Bring JPEGs into my camera. And I'm following tutorials online now. Okay, drop your highlight slider down, bring up your shadows, do this. And I'm doing that with these JPEG photos, and I realizing, but wait now, everything kind of glossing over and everything looking like a getting blown out. What going on here? I thought this is the image. The thing is, shooting an image in RAW on a camera versus shooting in JPEG is two totally different games. Um, you get a bazillion, or not a bazillion, but you get a lot more information to work with in post-processing when you're shooting in RAW versus when you're shooting in JPEG. Don't shoot in JPEG if you have a DSLR. Yeah, always
Yeah,
shooting.
and that's what you paid all your money for those pixels.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
when you're looking at your camera and you're studying how many megapixels it is. I mean, that is what you're paying for. Yeah.
the other thing that probably talk about is don't overdo it in post. You could tell. And I see people on Instagram and you know that they just turn up that clarity slider, they turn up contrast, they dehazing, they doing everything on that right hand side pane in Lightroom and kill you dead. Um, they think it's a really great photo, but the thing is, you don't have to overdo it. If your image is composed and you have a good story to tell in your image, you don't need to turn any sliders up, Your image talking for itself on its own without any edits. Now you might probably want to denoise it a little bit or maybe make it a little bit sharper or something, maybe bring up the shadows a bit. But you don't need to go all hell bent on diffusing and hi-fi and madness. The other one, cull immediately. Anybody on here know what two colors? Raise your hand if you know what two colors. I'll give people a second to raise their hand if you know what two colors. If you don't know, raise your hand. Anyway, to cull. So this is my pet peeve. It's a pet peeve or my challenge, right? The challenge is after a day of shooting, I come home. What do I do? Do I leave the do I leave my images on my SD card and think about coming back to it the following day, or and then never come back to it the following day and then go shoot again? Or maybe do I just take it off the SD card, leave it on my hard drive, or leave it somewhere and not look at it the same day, or not look at it the next day, and totally forget that they had images there? Maybe for professional photographers who making money off of this thing, they have better habits in coloring their photos. But for me, when I take photos, and I would recommend this to anybody, when you're taking photos, at the end of the day, once you have the time and you have the energy, take it off your camera, put it into your sorting software. My sorting software is Lightroom. Other people's sorting software is different things. And go through and click your X and black flag it and call it one time, call it clean out the ones you don't want immediately. And then make a second pass and make a third pass when you have time. Because when you leave things later on, it will definitely create a backlog. To the points here, back it up.
Yogi, sorry, one question. When you say you X them off, so you keep those and you just X them off, or you'd actually delete them?
Yeah, I delete them actually because but I X off the ones are really, really, really bad. Like the good ones, those X and then filter, discard and delete. Some people don't ever delete. Some people don't ever delete the images. I respect your choice, but so my preference for backing up is online, right? And you pay for your space. And if I keep two in my space, I waste my space on two, you know? So probably if I have, for example, I have a photo of a scene and there's 30 photos from one scene, and I find that one image of that scene that I love, I'll probably discard 25 of those photos and keep 5 with the one that really looking good, No, that's not to say what I am doing is right or wrong, but for me, that works, and it's really what works for you. For example, somebody might have a, a, a lot of terabytes of space on their hard drive and they could keep every single photo they ever took in their entire life, you know? I just keep it there, but it's really what will add value to you at the end of the day. And the last one is watermark. This is something tricky because amateur photographers, I guess we don't really I have never been watermarking stuff until probably last year. And the reason for that is I find that people started taking photos and saving and uploading to their pages or their Instagram or their Facebook. And they just put it there as if it's their own, And um, if you spend time and money on equipment and creating that image, it's not fair to you for somebody else to just wholeheartedly just take it. So it's always advised to put a watermark on it. Yeah. Let's see. Let's go to the next slide. Any questions? I'm going to the next slide. I'll talk a bit more about post-processing. Post-processing is a creative journey along the lines of if I only knew. And you know, it's only after 100 different YouTube videos you really understand what to crop means. I'm joking. But post-processing, in my mind, it is kind of like three sort of levels, right? And I could be wrong, to be honest, but this is what I feel like the three levels are. They might be different, but you know, for people who get into post-processing, the basics, yeah, have that cull, crop, and straighten. Straighter before the call, you're talking about horizontal horizons. Oh my God, my head hurts me so much to see a bent horizon. Like, can you not see that is not that's not straight? Like, you need a protractor or something going on. I mean, your camera have the level, right? If you're using a DSLR, your camera have a level to get your horizontal horizons, or even straightness and lighting.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah,
worse when it's askew as opposed to a lot. I mean, just slightly askew drives
yeah,
me insane.
yeah. That's crazy. Like, okay, come on. um, you know, things like white balance. Sometimes you're taking photos and you have auto white balance, and you're inside the house, you have this sort of 4K color light. You go outside, you have 5K color lights, and your camera doesn't really readjust, and your white's off. Not many people know, but white balance really brings out the true to color of your photo. Unless, of course, you're going for a particular style and you want that color grade, then that's something different, right? um, Managing noise, managing exposure, managing sharpness. Those are all the basics. When you move past the basics, you know, you get into things like playing with color, you're playing with the curves. I took a long time before I even understood what S curve is. Like I had like a long time. I was like, what people talk about S curve? What's that? But now with experience and looking at all these videos and tutorials, you understand that. And all these things you see on your screen, guys, you go Google it, and you'll find tutorials on explaining more about what I'm talking about here, right? So you get into color grading curves and bringing out details and contrast and yeah. And then when you get into the advanced, you're talking about you're making compositions and stacking images. You're talking about things like layering, masking, using different types of brushes to bring things out, focus stacking, blending, filters, and I have some information on filters at the end of the presentation. And you know, like when you get into that, you look to use certain things and certain tools. So for me, the tools that I use, OneDrive for backup, Creative Cloud for sharing, Nick Collection, Photoshop CC, and Lightroom Classic. People use Lightroom CC, I suppose. I don't know, but all my catalogs are saved in Lightroom Classic, and I just didn't want to transfer it to Lightroom CC. I don't know if any other photographers on the call, you all have any experience with like moving between Lightroom CC and Lightroom Classic, or like Shem, Carlos, or what you guys use?
I use Lightroom Classic. So,
Yeah,
and then I
that's
think I also use it on my iPad as well. So I think that one is Lightroom CC. Doesn't really that much of a difference.
Yeah, yeah. I thought Shem was going to talk. Shem?
Yeah, Lightroom Classic.
Lightroom Classic, yeah.
Yeah, I use Classic also, but from what I've seen, the ability to move from like an iPad version to your regular Classic on your computer, the Creative Cloud seems to be attractive. I haven't done it yet, but seems to be cool.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so I get into the last two sections now. This one will be planning a photography trip. And then after this, I'll probably get into what's in my bag. Yeah. Any questions from anybody before we move on? If not,
Actually, I'm just going to add one more thing to the Lightroom Classic, and just to add what you said earlier about composition, is that I don't really take on too much at Lightroom Classic or CC, because if the photo is crap, well, yeah, not really going to help too much when you go from either. So I don't do too much editing on my photos. So.
Nice.
I would also probably add, try not to edit when you're tired, because you tend to make mistakes and you don't see things as well. And when you look at it and when you're all fresh and bright-eyed, you see a lot of really glaring mistakes that you didn't see. If you know.
100% saturation.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, since we're on that note, I think it might be best to try to keep your color correction on your screen as well as
Right.
good, because you might be editing something that you might think is good, but if your screen is off,
Yep, true.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one, Tion. Like for example, the color profile on my laptop screen is totally different from the color profile on my monitor. And it may look really, really good and bursting with color and vibrant on the monitor. And then back on the laptop screen where it's actually color corrected and real, it looks totally different. Totally different. That's a really good point that I missed you on. Thanks here. Okay, let's get into planning a photography trip. For you, Sarita. So, I guess lots of people ask, offline also, like, what do you do? And I guess it's three things really. One, get inspired, right? So before you go anywhere, you probably need a reason why you want to go there. What is your inspiration? What are you going to do? Why are you going there for? What sort of photos you want to get, or like what kind of experiences you're looking to get, right? And for me, I find inspiration from Instagram and other users. Like go on Reddit, Google. And there's this website called F-Stoppers, and you could probably have 100 different sources of places you get inspiration from. But really and truly, you need to get inspired. You need to want to really experience and see something even before thinking about going there. When you get to that point where you want to experience it, you want to see it for yourself, then you'll probably try to start making that happen, right? I love that, with Instagram, you go searching hashtags and locations, and it's very popular. You find people with good images and good things from places, and you go on Google and you Google the places and find locations on Google, and you make up your mind to go there and you start planning for it, right? And when you plan for it, there's a bunch of different things that you do to get there. The biggest part of planning for it is knowing what your budget is and how you're going to fit everything that you want to do in that budget at time that you have, right? From how you're going to get there, where you're going to stay, and what you're going to do. How you're going to get there. So you have, flights.google.com, you have Expedia, those. And what I do, I look for flights on Google, flights.google.com, Google Flights. And I create something called a flight tracker on that website. And what that flight tracker does is it tells you the price of tickets later out in time when it's going up or going down. And you could, for example, this one time, I'm just going to use some examples, like a flight to New York was maybe $450, but when you're tracking it and you're looking for the time, it may go down to half that price, or anywhere else in the world. You look for really good deals, and you could probably end up saving more than half the amount that you would normally pay for a flight, using flight trackers. And there's also a website called I think it's Skip Lag, I'm not sure. I never used it before, but I heard people talk about it, and I saw it on other websites. I will have to save money on flights. Where to stay? Where to stay depends on your budget again. I don't stay in hotels. I sleep in people's rooms in their houses, on Airbnb. So for example, if you were to probably book a night in a hotel room for 120 US, I'll probably pay 15 US a night. and get breakfast served in the morning in an Airbnb, you know. But not everybody feels comfortable to do that. So again, what will work for you? For me, that would Booking.com also has cheap deals, and there's this thing called Hostel World, and you could even pay down to $5 a night in a popular location, in a room with 6 other people, like if you're offshore. Yeah. So where to stay? That's how you save money. Where on flights and where to stay and what to do. TripAdvisor is really good, you know. Although people might talk about it negatively sometimes, I don't know. But TripAdvisor is really good. And there's this website called Atlas Obscura. Not many people know about that, but I like it because, and you can probably go visit it after this talk. That website tells you about all of the unique and different things you can do at any location you're going to visit. Really beaten off the parts attractions. And then the last part about all of this is they plan it. So I love using these apps, Google Maps, Photopills. So, you know, Photopills, you kind of use Photopills to know where the light is at certain times of the day. I don't know if anybody else on the call uses Photopills. Yeah, but Photopills is great for telling you what time of the day you should go and take a photo and what direction the light will come from in any part of the world. I use pins on Google Maps and stars on Google Maps, so I'll know where I'm going to go. And even when I'm plotting out routes, that is the tool to use. And everything else in your phone arsenal, I know your Lightroom mobile, the Creative Cloud, Pixlr, Snapseed. If I like some photos are taken diving, I use this app called Dive Plus also to do quick edits. Yeah.
Have you ever used Couchsurfer to stay?
I want to. I know people who did it, but I never used it now. Yeah. Right.
What's been the experience using Airbnb?
I I've only had one bad experience out of the 20 experiences. But yeah, so it's been pretty good actually. Pretty good. Yeah. And cheap and people nice, and most times you wake up to breakfast. Like most times, depending on where you stay, you'll get breakfast for free. I mean, like, yeah. Okay, I'll end now with one more slide. What's in my bag? Because everybody always asks a photographer what's in your bag. My bag has two things: my camera, my GoPro, and I probably only use one lens when I travel. And most times it's the 16-35 because with that I have my filters with it. So I have these three lenses interchangeable depending on where I'm going and what I'm doing. And then well, for some people it might be basic accessories, for some people not. But if you do long exposure, you can either touch your screen, use a phone in your app or something, or use a wireless shutter release. A light tripod for traveling, some leaf filters, so a big stop, a little stop, a graduated, a polarizer, a ring, and this thing called three-legged thing bracket, so I could secure my camera on this side. Yeah, that's all that was in my bag. I don't know what else. What do people have in their bags? Yeah, one thing I wanted to find out from people is move from DSLR to mirrorless and EF to RF mounts, and the Sony Alpha line cameras. People online, what do you guys using now? Are you guys still in DSLR? Are you moving away to mirrorless? How do you guys feel about that?
I am going to switch from Canon to Sony.
Yeah.
So that's me.
I think that is good. This is cute to say something.
Yeah.
Ooh, I feel like right now that decision is harder than it was like earlier in the year. Right now I am Nikon. I am ready to switch to either Canon or Sony, but only because I believe like the brand is dying. But I haven't totally decided yet, but I am ready. As soon as shipping probably sorts itself out.
Yeah, I think I mean, to switch with the like the lens and the gear that you have in the line to another is not easy.
Yeah, yeah.
There's an adapter you could use, the MC11, that,
Mhm.
so for instance, Canon lenses on Sony, like the 7S and the 7 III, it's
Yeah,
almost like native. So you really don't have any loss, which is what I will do.
nice. Yeah,
I think for mine, I have a GH5 and a Canon 6D, but I think actually I was actually really impressed with the R5 more than I was expecting. So actually I was thinking this to go back to Canon because I just adapt my Canon lenses to the GH5.
oh, really. Wow.
Yeah, I use a Metabone speed booster, so it basically makes that Canon glass enhance the light onto the Micro Four Thirds, and it works great for video.
Nice. Yeah. Well, everybody.
All right. If we any more questions? If we don't have any more questions, we'd like to really thank Yogi for a really in-depth presentation. Beautiful images and a good insight into the way he makes his images and plans his trips. I know now is not, I know a lot of us have been stuck at home and we've been, you know, some of us are yearning to get out there, but, you know, we just have to kind of roll with the punches and use all this time to plan our next trip whenever we can get out. Two things, we just want to make two quick announcements. We have two other Zoom meetings planned for mid-September or September, mid-September. We're going to have one by social media strategist, Nicole Green. She's going to talk about utilizing social media to market yourself and your business and your photography. And then we also have something planned with a brilliant photographer from Tobago, Terrell George. He's going to give us something on photography and graphic design. And well, design and graphic design. So kind of bring in, you know, your photography into that world of text and advertising and that type and communication and that sort of thing. So that's the two things we have planned. Of course, like I've said a few times, we have the contest or competition ongoing. So please, you know, if you're thinking about doing it, really jump in. There's no right or wrong time to do it. It's a good exercise in growing as a photographer, having to go through your images and as Yogi talked about, culling your images and really looking at your work in a critical kind of way.
This
Sure.
is Fion from Media now continuing the live stream for tomorrow.
Yeah. So that, and then also as Sarita mentioned, we do have a special on right now for membership. If you sign up or if you renew your adult membership for 1 year, you actually get a free entry into the competition. So yeah, Sarita, anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's pretty much it. I think, yeah, we covered it. Yogi, that was great. That was fantastic. It really was great. So thank you very much.
Yogi, I just want to say super presentation. Those tips you put there, the first one, get inspired, and I think you've inspired me. I've not been out shooting in a while, and seeing images, seeing someone talk about the process, and it just inspired me to go out and shoot again. So I'm looking forward to going back out there again. Thank you for that. You mentioned YouTube. There's so much videos out there you can look and learn. I will tip on that too, or just to add on to that. If you want to hear it, it's scrolling to the end of the video and see what they actually do. Because sometimes you sit down there for 10 minutes looking at a video to realize, okay, this was not the best video to look at. So I would just scroll across to the end, check it out, make sure it's something like you want to look at, and then go and watch a video if it is. But thanks again for sharing. I really love all your work. Good stuff, man.
All right, so I think that's it. Thanks everybody for joining on. We had a record 36 people. I think that is pretty much 100% turnout with the people who registered. So thanks again, everyone. Yogi, thank you very much for for sharing your work with us, and thanks for everyone for being part of this event tonight. All right,
And
so
this
be
was
safe.
this was actually recorded, so it'll be on our website at some point in the near future. Yeah.
All right, so everyone be safe and have a good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Now everybody talking.
Like,
Now everybody decide to talk.
that's all right.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.